Jane Goodall once said, "There is not a sharp line dividing humans from the rest of the animal kingdom. Humans are just as much a natural element of this world as any other living thing. We share a special bond with life on Earth. It gives birth to us and sustains us. But the natural world also has a factor that plays a role in our deaths. We call it disease, and ever since early man caught his first cold, we have been fighting it." Disease has affected the human race since its earliest of days. It is as old as we are, so over the thousands of years since civilization first arose, many thousands of different forms of medicine have been devised. However, all of these methods to prevent disease can be separated into two fields: prevention and treatment.
So what is disease?
Disease is simply anything that stops us from functioning properly. It could be viruses, infections, or simply natural organ failure, which involves diseases caused by the body itself.
Like strokes, heart attacks, or cancer?
Yeah. Until the last few decades, attempts at curing or preventing these was limited to lifestyle and diet choices. Their effect on our ancestors was constant and unchanging. For early humans, however, viruses were almost non-existent. These people were nomadic hunters and gatherers. They lived in small groups of families, constantly on the move, searching for food. This made the spreading of viruses very difficult. For one, these groups of humans seldom came into contact with other groups. If somehow a group did become infected with a virus, nearly everyone in it would be infected with it and die. Those who didn't die from the infection would either perish in the wild without other human support, or survive to pass on their immunity. So it wasn't until settlements were created, based around agriculture, that dealing with contagious diseases and infection became an issue. Before sewers were implemented in Greek and Roman cities, the safest place to live was at the high ground of the city. Waste generally ended up dumped in a large cesspool at the lowest point of the city. Living higher up meant that you usually had first access to water, and that none of the city's sewage would reach you. Another method of preventing disease was one practiced by nearly everyone worldwide: the disposal of corpses. By burning or burying corpses, people could prevent bacteria from spreading. In ancient Rome, contagious diseases were partially prevented by the use of bathhouses, aqueducts, and sewers. In general, Roman and other Mediterranean citizens were healthier than those of less developed cities. The tables were turned when pandemic struck, when the density of its cities contributed to the number of deaths. The plague of Justinian killed 100 million people and 50% of Europe's population, from 550 to 700 AD. European physicians of this era believed that diseases were caused by an imbalance of humors or fluids in the body, like blood. Thus, many practiced the technique of bleeding, literally removing a large quantity of blood from a patient to cure illnesses. This usually actually made matters worse. While the Han Chinese used early forms of anesthesia, that didn't exist in Europe. The procedure for battlefield surgery in the Roman legions involved little more than giving the soldier a drink and sawing away. For the most part, early European medicine involved the use of herbs, diet, and lifestyle, coupled with a few bizarre misconceptions. Simple as it may seem, Rome and its other counterparts had the best medicine in Europe until about 1,000 years later. Forms of medicine in Europe became less advanced during the Dark Ages. When the Black Death struck, Europeans were forced to rely upon primitive forms of treatment. An example of these is the use of perfume. Because Europeans believed that diseases were spread by odors, they tried to use scents to combat the plague. Superstition also played a huge part in medicine. Rich kings searched for immortality in minerals, religion, or other practices, like the consumption of ground-up Egyptian mummies. In the Muslim world, however, medicine made great advances. Among other things, Arab physicians discovered the immune system, used animal testing, invented injection syringes, developed early drugstores, and discovered at least 2,000 medicinal substances.
The East has its own history of medicine involving methods like acupuncture with the use of needles that are inserted into the body to release pain or for therapeutic purposes. Auricular therapy is also a method developed by the East, which is a form of food therapy using herbal medicine mainly to cure diseases found in the digestive tract. Cupping is a type of massage, placing cups on a patient's back, acting as a suction to release stress. Last but not least, a method called moxibustion involves the burning of herbs for medicinal effects. Basically, the East develops its method of cures to diseases that are totally separate from the West. However, it is only the recent years when the doctors start to incorporate these methods into one.
Approximately 360 acupuncture points on the body. There are other extra points that exist as well, so at last count, no one's quite sure how many acupuncture points, but traditionally speaking, somewhere between 300 and 400 classically described acupuncture points.
It wasn't until the Renaissance and later that modern medicine emerged. The things we take for granted in our everyday life, like anesthesia, vaccines, or even antibiotics, weren't around just 3 centuries ago. So the next time we walk by a hospital, think of all the discoveries that had to be made before us, and just how lucky we all are. While the future of modern medicine is unknown, history indicates that medical breakthroughs will continue to be made. But the fact remains that there is no elixir of life and no way to cheat death. Death is certain, natural, and healthy for the planet. But another 5 years of retirement never hurts. And for that, we'll always have modern medicine, the product of 10,000 years of medical misconceptions, blunders, and discoveries.